Hello, my name is Cristiano Lemos and I'm going to be talking about maps today and how to design them. So the first thing to define is, why do you want to make a map? Is it going to be used by a tourist attraction to list all the places that are available, and for instance in an amusement park, and all the fun activities that there are? Or is it going to be used by a tourism board, for instance, or a convention bureau, in which they're going to list all the association members and all the major tourist attractions? Does it need to be informative, or can it have ads? So once you've defined that will help define what goes on the front of the map and what goes on the back. The front of the map is usually the map itself, so the geographical map, or a cartoon illustrated map. Either case, on the back of the map, you'll have either more information for the tourist or for the user, or you'll have ads. So the more information could be points of interest, tips, transportation maps, anything that will help the user with more information. Similarly, you could also have ads. So maybe this is a map that will be paid for by advertisers. So on the front you can have that map and all the useful information for the tourist, and on the back you can have the different attractions who will be paying for the production of this map. When it comes to map art, there are basically two ways you can go about. You can either get a geographical street map of an area and use that, which is very precise. It's the factual layout of the region. Or you can use an illustrated map. The illustrated map has a few advantages and a few disadvantages. The main advantage is that you can highlight what are the main attractions and what you want to highlight. You can define that, since you're going to tell the illustrator, please point out the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and the Champs-Élysées. Where in a geographical map, all those elements are going to be tiny compared to the size of the city of Paris. And you'll have to point out all these tourist attractions to make them stand out. As for the geographical map, the main advantage is that everything is precise. All the streets are labeled, every avenue, every square, and all the main geographical elements are included in there. If it's a destination that only has a few main streets and all the tourist attractions are on that, then you might want to use an illustrated map. So for instance, if you're doing a map of Paris, you can either go with an illustrated map and highlight all the main attractions that you want to highlight, or you can go with a geographical map, which might not be so useful for the end user because the street level names aren't listed there, just main avenues. But at the same time, it's since Paris has a lot of tourist attractions just about everywhere, it's about on every street, then maybe it might be useful. So for instance, the tourist information kiosk people or the hotel concierge can find out exactly which street you should go on and then point that out and highlight that for the traveler. So the other advantage to an illustrated map is that it can convey the spirit of the destination. For instance, if it's a city like Vienna, which is a serious classical city, then you can have a certain style, whereas if you're talking about a city like Orlando, which has a lot of fun activities, then you can have more fun illustrated elements. The second thing to consider is the size of the map. I like to use the A3 size map, which is 11 inches by 17 inches. And this seems to be the ideal size for most tourists, since it isn't too big. A lot of tourists don't want to pull out a huge map, as that may signal that they're tourists, and that might get a lot of attraction from unwanted pickpockets and the like. The other thing about map sizes is that a map that's twice the size will cost twice as much. There is no way around it. That's how printers work, and it's basically you're just doubling the cost of printing, of paper, and of ink. So you really can't circumvent it. So an A2 size map will cost twice as much as an A3 size map. The other thing to consider is the paper quality. Who will be using this map? If it's for tourists and for tourist information kiosks and concierge desks to scribble on, then you might want to go with the offset paper quality, which is basically just the regular paper that most people have in their printers, because it does allow for scribbling and writing down with pen and pencil. If it's a map that you want people to hang on their wall, then you might want to go with a glossy paper quality. And of course, if it's a map that will go on the wall, then you might want to go with a bigger map also. The other thing to consider is the number of folds. If you're going to be giving this out to hotels and information kiosks, then you might just want to give them out flat. This is, people can see the map from far away. They might want to take one themselves. They'll help themselves to a map. And since it's flat out, and it'll be a lot easier for the concierge to just start scribbling on it instead of having to fold it out and then to write on it. Another tip is if you order maps in the open format instead of folded, you might want to ask for it to be blocked, which means that if people can tear one out and it has a bit of glue on the side to keep all the maps in order and so that they don't spread out over, for instance, a counter or wherever you're carrying them. And the last thing to consider is the quantity. If it's a map that you'll be giving out to as many tourists as possible, then of course you want quantity. Then you might want to go with the offset map, which is slightly cheaper. You might want to go with the A3, which is also more affordable. And as far as the art, then the art on the front and back, that will be up to you. But if you go with an unfolded A3 offset paper quality map, usually 90 to 115 grams, then you'll be saving a lot of money and getting a lot of maps printed for your buck.